Welcome back to a bit gaming and some basic tips. So I'm not an expert on any of this, as I've been away from it for 30 years, but since I got back into it, there's a few things that have cropped up which might be useful knowing about if you're in a similar situation. First one is this stuff, plastic glue. Yeah, when I was doing it originally, it was Airfix kits with whatever the glue was back then, polystyrene cement or super glue or whatever it was. I don't know if they had this stuff, or if I just didn't know about it. But it's just a much better way of dealing with hard plastic. It just it glues and sets and blah blah blah, much easier, and it's much quicker. So anything hard plastic, whether it's model kits or a lot of the kind of hard plastic figures, Victrix or Warlord or whatever, it just works much better and without spending the whole time gluing your fingers together. A second glue, your mileage may vary on this, but for me I think it's worthwhile. Yeah, I didn't keep the box, unfortunately, but you get a little cardboard box full of these very small, I don't know what you call them, tubs, whatever, small containers for super glue, because this stuff, it works on hard plastic, but it doesn't work on things like resin and metal and stuff. So you still need super glue. And what I always found when I was using super glue before is you'd use it on one model, and you might use a kind of quarter of a tube or whatever, and the next time you go back to it, it's all gone solid, and you have to spend an hour stabbing yourself in the fingers trying to get it to flow again. And what these are, you get these little cardboard boxes full of a bunch of these little ones. I don't know if what the price per ounce is or whatever, but they're pretty good, because you use one up and then it's gone, and then you don't have to worry about it getting clogged up and having to fight to get it open again afterwards. So I think it probably depends on your point of view, but these I like these little packets, so that you might use one per model, and then then that's gone. You don't have to worry about it. What's the third one? Oh yeah, the third one. This is probably only something that someone like me would do. There's lots of different kinds of paint, and then the Vallejo has a bunch of different kind of ranges, and one of them is called Model Air, and another one is called Model Color. Now, this is probably only me that would do this, but I didn't think when I first went into a game shop to get some paints. I just randomly picked various paints, and didn't occur to me to wonder what Model Air meant and what it means. For, I'd say, most people probably guessed already that it's for airbrushes. Now, this doesn't mean that it's useless. It does work, but it's not. Quite a lot of them are a bit too runny. Yeah, so I don't know. There may be sort of things you can do with them, but I say it's just a kind of silly thing that if you're going to get back into it and you wander into a store and you're looking at the thing, if it says Model Air, it's meant to be for airbrushes. So it doesn't mean it's useless, but if you can get the ones that say Model Color, if you're using a paintbrush, then that's probably better. On a related note, if you ever get any army painter stuff, they'll give you a little leaflet which talks about how you have to shake your paints, because they come with a mixture of pigment and some kind of fluid that it's floating in, and over time the pigment settles to the bottom and the other stuff goes up to the top, which is fair enough, and then you're supposed to shake it. And so the other little tip that I've found is how much you need to shake it, and the general answer is more than you think. Especially if it's new, or and it varies from maker to maker and paint to paint probably. But you want to give it a good going over a lot of the time. And also the other thing is, If it's really full, I mean, if it's really over, the medium in which the pigment sits is particularly heavy at the top, you might need to actually pour out a fair bit from the top, just to get rid of it, so you can, so it's paint not too runny. So that's the fourth one. The first one, good glue. Second thing, more probably personal, little small bits of super glue. Third one is don't buy Model Air if you don't have an airbrush. And fourth one, shake your paints. Fifth one, it's not really a tip so much as a I don't know what you call it, wet palette. Everything. Some people think they're great, some people don't. I've got one, and I'd say that they're not as good. I mean, if you're a bad painter, it's not going to make you a better painter, really. There might be good things. There might be other good things about it, but the main good thing for me is, it's wet, and so it keeps your paint, or in theory, it keeps your paints wet for a bit longer. How useful is that? I mean, if you're doing kind of like fantasy type figures, not really doing like one at a time or something, then I don't know how useful it is, to be honest. But if you're doing historicals like Napoleonics, and you're doing like 12 at a go or whatever, and you're painting lots of blue, then it'll keep your blue wet for the next day, sort of thing. So basically what it does is it saves you from wasting paint. But if you think about how much it saves you, it's probably only pennies. So I think I think they're kind of worth getting if you're that sort of person. But don't expect it to pay off very fast. You might like make 2p a day or something. It might save you 2p a day. So in a year, so that's like a fiver in a year or something like that. And I don't know how much that one costs. I think it's 15 quid, I think. So it's not going to save you massive amounts of money, and it's probably not going to make you a better painter. I don't regret getting it, but I don't think they're the be all and end all of things. And don't get one if you think it's going to make you a better painter. The last one, number 6, is it worth getting expensive Winsor and Newton brushes? Yes and no. I think it's definitely worth getting one or maybe two that you use a lot, and but you need crappy brushes too. So you don't need to go overboard with them. Yeah, one or two. I mean, this one is size 1, which I use most of the time, and I'd probably use a size down. The thing about using the really small brushes is you've got to be able to see the details. So if you're getting a bit old and your eyes aren't as good as they used to be, then having a really fine brush isn't necessarily going to help you much, unless you've got one of those big eyeglass things. But yeah, I think these are great brushes. I think if you look after them well, these are excellent. But you don't need dozens, because half the time you're doing stuff that a crappy brush will be just as good. But I do think they're worth getting one or two. Oh, and that just reminded me about looking after them and keeping them clean, and the point and all that stuff. Tip 7, this stuff, brush cleaner. This one's called the Masters Brush Cleaner and Preserver. There's probably other makes, but yeah, this is great. Do it every time you finish painting. Just give them a go over with this, just to try to preserve them as much as possible. Because when I first started, I got some fairly cheapish brushes, and they died on me really fast. You get to the point where and then partly it was my fault, not cleaning them properly, but partly not. Partly they just fall apart. So yeah, brush cleaner, very good. Winsor & Newton brushes, very good, though you don't need millions of them. And don't mind about getting crappy brushes as well, because you're going to need them for stuff. Okay, so that's 7 tips. Okie doke.